It begins with cupcakes. I'm sure every internet horror enthusiast, Bonniee, and anybody who uses the internet, period, knows what Cupcakes is. It's a story infamous for destroying an entire generation of My Little Pony fans, popularised even more so by the viral and extremely graphic video adaptation by Mr. Davy. So I won't be explaining the entire premise of the story now, but it does play a role in the subject matter of this video. With the rising popularity of Friendship is Magic in 2011 and 2012, dozens of fanfictions, or as they were more commonly known, My Little Pony Grimdarks, just like Cupcakes, were made, followed by hundreds, even thousands more, ranging from amateur gorefests to intriguing adaptations to, can you stop? To downright unnecessarily disturbing material, though I suppose that is the point. With all of that, there definitely came some more disturbing interpretations of the show, the world it's set in, and the characters. And while I was looking through some old Grimdarks a while ago, your regular old Rainbow Factory, Butterflies, Apple Sleep experiment sort of thing, I rediscovered that old morbid curiosity I'd long forgotten. Probably for the best, thinking back, internet horror's been fucking me up for a long time. At the same time, however, the sense of nostalgia I got from listening to audio readings of stories like The Friendship Test was comforting. It reminded me of a simpler time on the internet where most of the people engaging in fan content were either ignorant young adults or curious kids, and no one could really tell what was genuine and what wasn't, so it's a lot easier to scare yourself on the internet and to scare other people. And that mystery was how these stories found life, where one little story could birth an entire internet folklore of sorts. I can guarantee, however, that I did not feel nearly as romantic about it as a 9-year-old. I'm sure nobody did. Still, it was an interesting period of time, to say the least. And personally, if the internet was the same as it was back then, terrible horror stories and fanfictions and all, I would be far more engaged in the modern World Wide Web. You could argue that the likes of analog horror and My Little Pony infection AUs is a result of this unrestricted internet access and the inherent trauma of the younger generation, and us nowadays finding that strange sense of comfort in recreating that feeling. I find that to be a very interesting point, and I do plan to make a video on that as well at some point, because it really does deserve a video of its own. That is all besides the point, however, while it did encourage me to make this video. During this researching escapade, I accidentally rediscovered something that I was looking for a while back, but had forgotten the name of. I found a silent playthrough by Rooksy Gamer of a My Little Pony fan game, and when they reached the first crawl space jump scare, I realised I'd actually seen playthroughs of this game before when I was about 10, maybe 11 years old. This would have been during the initial coronavirus pandemic, so tensions were already high enough without bored people making video games like this. I mustn't have watched it the whole way through though, because I'd forgotten so much of it, but it definitely had a lasting effect on my mind, evidently enough for me to remember it about 6 years later. This game was Pinkie Pie's Cupcake Party by Eightblackey. Cupcake Party is inspired heavily by Cupcakes itself and was demo released in January of 2020 and fully updated in November of the same year. It's set up as a perfectly innocent pony game, as is most shock horror like it. In the beginning, you're greeted with an invite from Pinkie Pie encouraging Twilight Sparkle to come to her party. Upon clicking the continue option when it appears, you're dropped into Sugar Cube Corner, or rather a Play-Doh advert reminiscent rendering of it. This is when you're given the first look at the frankly horrific graphics of this game and the crude pony models. They're all clearly the exact same base, just with different colours, hair, etc. Their smiles are too big for their faces, and yet they don't quite reach their eyes. And when you interact with them, they all just giggle in the exact same manner. I actually think this adds to the game's atmosphere incredibly well, especially considering that the faces aren't rigged for any animations. This makes the creepier aspects, which I will touch on later, even more uncanny and creepy. When you interact with Pinkie, she offers you a cupcake, and when you interact with the cupcake, your surroundings start chromatically shifting, and all the ponies do this for some reason. It stays like that for a few moments, and then the screen blacks out and you wake up in a cellar. From here, the graphics go from flat and colourful to dull and dark and downright unflattering. It reminds me in a way of Granny or other such TV Loop or mobile horror games. Perhaps they use the same stock textures and items, I don't know. The physics are terrible, as expected from a free game you can download in itch.io, and you are immediately greeted with this looked crying, supposedly the crying of another nearby pony. Now this crying is really visceral. It made me really uncomfortable just listening to it during my own playthrough, especially with the addition of the ambience in the background. You'd expect it to turn into noise after a while, but it just didn't for me. But with that abrupt start, you get right into the thick of it. You make your way out of the room you're locked in through a vent, and you're greeted by this ghost pony thing that screams at you and chases you and actually deals damage if you get too close to it. It becomes a recurring jump scare for when you're in any other crawl space. Not to mention it too has the same crude smile locked on its face. From then on, the game becomes rather consistent, presenting you with the occasional lore-relevant threat as you make your way through the cellar to release the other ponies. It becomes clearer as you traverse the cellar that this is where Pinkie stores her cupcake ingredients, though that's mostly where the similarities between cupcakes in this game end. The ghost pony is revealed to be from the corpse of a pony that looks very well tortured, and chases you until it eventually crumples into a heap and doesn't wake up. By the way, this section is really difficult. I must have recorded about an hour of footage just trying to escape it. Eventually you encounter Pinkie herself, who stalks you throughout the rest of the game on 2 legs, with a knife, which she is somehow able to hold with no issue, and clear intent to kill. Her smile is as wide as ever, and when you get close enough to her and a trapped pony at the same time, you get her incessant giggling on top of the lips crying, resulting in this horrendous cacophony of noise I found really overwhelming. Anyway, one round of the game can easily be completed in about half an hour, maybe 10 minutes if you know your way around well enough, which I don't. And that's about the extent of the gameplay. Being a decently difficult game that would otherwise be played maybe once or twice for the crack and then deleted or forgotten, this game has 4 different endings. This definitely gives it replayability. The real world ending, or the good ending, is where you rescue all the ponies, including the real Pinkie, who it turns out was locked in a cage the entire time, and the pink pony who was pursuing you was actually an alter ego known as Pinkamena. Come to this topic, however, there's zero explanation given as to who Pinkamena is in relation to Pinkie, a psychotic clone from the Too Many Pinkies episode of Friendship is Magic, perhaps, a twin sister, a changeling. It's confusing. I doubt there's any real explanation to it. It ends with the main 6 having a party and it all goes back to normal, like nothing ever happened. Also, nothing even happens to Pinkamena. You don't kill her and she isn't arrested, she just isn't mentioned again. No real closure or anything. Alternatively, you can leave Pinkie behind with Pinkamena, resulting in the abandoned ending. I don't really even know why this is an option. Maybe Twilight presumes it's another trick. Maybe she's just eager to get out, beats me. I tried looking into these more confusing topics, but there's no fandom wiki or anything for the game. Then there's the Cupcake's ending, which is achieved by rescuing some ponies but not all 5, and then exiting the cellar. Pinkamena follows you in, and you are trapped and killed by her, and you and all of your friends are turned into cupcakes. This is definitely a grim ending, and if any, befitting the original story. But then there's the hanging ending, which is by far the most dreadful. It is achieved by attempting to leave the cellar without rescuing anybody. When you get to the point where you can normally get out, you're led down a twisting hallway with writing on the walls, giving Twilight a telling off for leaving her friends to die. This leads to a final room with a noose hanging from the ceiling, which you interact with, and yeah. These are all very cut and dry endings, but I think they fit the overall narrative perfectly. Especially the last one with the hanging ending. I really liked how it didn't even let you escape to begin with if you try. I like to imagine this as representative of Twilight's guilt rather than a punishment from Pinkamena, though I may be giving too much credit to this game as I am, as I mentioned before, a sucker for this sort of media. Moving on from the actual details of the game, I come to the general reception of the game. It grossed some solid ratings on Google Play, even if some of them are just parents complaining about having a children's character as the antagonist in a horror game. It was free from the beginning, available on itch for Mac, Windows and Android. It did decently well at the time of release. Some of the only, particularly notable people, no offense, who really played it were channels like Family Gaming Television, Lauren's Eastside and Think Noodles. All of whom are channels advertised mainly towards children. For such a bleak game, I'd imagine they just didn't know what they were getting into and they decided to play it, and they were expecting something a bit less visceral than what they ended up with. That might not be the case though, and I wouldn't know because I haven't watched any of the playthroughs and frankly I refuse to. Point being, the game was picked up and set down almost instantaneously, and only made a comeback with the update nearly a year after the initial demo release. Moving on to Eightblackey themselves, they're a gamer as well as a developer, as far as I can tell. They uploaded their first video in 2019, which was the prelude to their 2017 game called Annelide's Jumpscare Castle. Then 3 years later, they released the trailers for their other games, the 3D Tale series, basically just short fan games of Undertale and Deltarune, as well as Bonniee. For some reason, as a livid Digital Circus hater, this disappointed me. Then there was The Witchmare. The Witchmare is a follow-up to Cupcake Party. It originally posed Pinkamena as the main threat again, but due to parents complaining about Pinkie being in a violent game, she was changed to Eightblackey's original character, The Witchmare. It has a similar formula to Cupcake Party where you need to get out, find all the keys or die, etc. This was followed by yet another game, Popsicorn's House of Oddities, which again has a very similar solve the puzzles or die gruesomely theme. They got basically no reception, and The Witchmare was made on a budget of $3 US, courtesy of Eightblackey's one patron. I'd say that this atrocious reception is most likely due to the Witchmare not being a recognisable character compared to Pinkie Pie, and I'm pretty sure that the Witchmare and Popsicorn is only available on PC, so I couldn't get in any gameplay on the two. Both of them are in essence just granny clones with different characters anyways, and I feel the best game experience overall would have been Cupcake Party as it is. I did notice in the promo trailer for the Witchmare, however, that the ghost pony comes back and just freezes you in place for a few seconds, which I think is really funny, and this gremlin cupcake thing is adorable. From the very beginning, it's pretty obvious that Cupcake Party is just your average, quintessential shock horror game. It isn't perfect, but it excels in many ways at being creepy, if in a very Slenderina the Cellar way. Getting stalked by a bipedal monster of an unfamiliar pink pony, with ambience enough to give me nightmares when I first encountered it, is more than most media today can ask for in terms of gentler forms of terror gameplay. The game could also very well have just been a product of the time. Everyone was in lockdown, Eightblackey might have just had a lot of undirected passion to give, so he gave it to a neat little short horror game with basically zero profit or budget. And for a game of such poor caliber, it was astounding in many aspects. Again, I personally don't hold it in very particularly high regard, but I do like it for what it is. It's got charm, chilling sound effects, and grim portrayals of torture, murder, and cannibalism. As a standalone game, it might have done better because there wouldn't be any context to its existence, cloaking it in even more mystery than it already has. Even so, as an adaptation of an infamous grimdark, it excels. Though it's not entirely accurate to the original story, it still works. I doubt there's any way a game about the original story could have gone much better, because when you think about it, the story wasn't much better. Both are perfect in their imperfections and really serve to bring out the best in each other, however gory that may look. I strongly encourage supporting little fan projects like this, maybe even give it a little play for yourself. While you're at it, go listen to some The Lost Narrator or Scribbler Productions readings of grimdarks if you like this sort of thing as much as I do. This has been more of a nerd talk, if anything, and a reminder of something that others may have been looking for. This is the first video I've actually ever scripted, and this is my first time properly saying hello to the internet. I'm a young artist and writer, and there's more information on me in my Straw page, which is linked in the About section of my channel. From there you can find my other platforms if anybody's interested in my artwork, and yeah, that's about everything. Have a wonderful time of day. I hope you find this interesting. And if you watched this the whole way through, thanks very much. Have a good one.